Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We are going to get started in just a few moments for today's Impact Tuesday with JWF. So hopefully we'll give you all about 5 more minutes to log on, and at 1 o'clock we'll get started. Hi, Helene.
Well, it's done. I'm here.
Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hi, Emily. I don't know
Hi.
what I don't know what to say.
Well, I'm glad you got in, and I'm glad you're on. We are going to get started in just a few minutes with everybody. Give them a few more minutes, about 5 minutes to log on, and we'll get started at 1.
Okay. Is Jennifer here? There?
She is. She's here. I think we're going to turn off cameras for just a moment. Do you know how to stop your camera on your end as well?
Me?
Yep. No?
I can wait. Yeah. Stop video.
There we
Yeah.
go. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to pause for just a few minutes. We're going to let everybody else log in, and we will see you all in just a couple of moments.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for Impact Tuesday. I'm very excited to be here to host today for a very special Impact Tuesday webinar. I'm Emily Taffel, founder and president of Mugsy PR, and I'm very excited to be able to interview JWF CEO Jennifer Kryshka and JWF trustee and board member Helene Weingarten today. We are turning the tables on Jennifer, who usually interviews other phenomenal organizations about the impact that they have. And we're going to be talking about the impact that the Jewish Women's Foundation of the Greater Palm Beaches has today. As you all know, JWF is a feminist social change organization, and I'm going to let Jennifer take the floor to explain a little bit about the general mission. But overall today, we're going to talk about things that you never knew about JWF and get a little sneak peek behind the scenes of what's to come, all the incredible programs and such that they have. But to start, I want to have both Jennifer and Helene introduce themselves, and Jennifer, we'll start with you. If you could just tell us a little bit about how you got started working in nonprofits and with JWF in the first place.
Sure, and thank you, Emily, for hosting today's Impact Tuesdays. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate Helene being here to join me today. Hello, everybody who is participating in the webinar. So I have been working in the nonprofit world basically my entire career, which is a really long time. I'm not going to say how long that is. And I've worked pretty much in the Jewish communal space for my entire career as well. So I've worked for basically every Jewish institution you can think of. I spent some time in DC and was looking to come back to Florida almost 6 years ago. And Judith Seltzer, who is a good friend of mine, who is also one of the founders of Women's Foundation of Florida, who we partner with a lot, was a trustee of JWF. And basically, when I was looking, to find a job in Florida, she connected me with the organization, and so I've been here for almost 6 years. August is my 6-year anniversary.
That's so phenomenal, and it's such a great fit. I mean, oh, and I do want to mention, if anybody has questions, we're going to hold questions to the end, but there is a question and answer button at the bottom, Q&A. Feel free to put your questions there for both Jennifer and Helene, and we will address them towards the end of the webinar. But Helene, let's also jump over to you. Can you tell us how you got started with nonprofit work and how you got introduced to JWF?
Well, I got introduced to JWF through a good friend of mine when I moved to Florida. And I will tell you that aside from my very first professional job, I have not been involved in anything in the nonprofit world. I just happen to remember my first job was with a runaway network group as a librarian, and we worked to support children who were running away from home at the time, and this was 1974, so a long time ago. But when I moved to IBIS, I got involved in Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, and I got introduced to Jewish Women's Foundation through that organization because at the time they were a part of Jewish Federation.
Fantastic.
I was attracted to the grant process.
Grant process. And I know a lot of people, that's when you think of Jewish Women's Foundation, you think of grant making. And we will definitely talk about grant making today as part of everything that they do. But Jennifer, I know that there is a lot more than just grant making when it comes to what you do at JWF. On a broad spectrum, can you tell us a little bit about what else there is that JWF offers? And then we're going to dig a little bit deeper.
I would love that. One of my favorite things to talk about, really. So many people do think of JWF primarily as a funder, which is definitely a big part of what we do. But our mission broadly is to advance the status of women and girls locally, nationally, and in Israel. And so what that really means is we're trying to look at prevention or intervention when it comes to different issues impacting women and girls. So yes, of course, we have the grant making piece. And so we do fund generally about $200,000 a year to organizations in Florida on a national scale, and then of course in Israel. But beyond that, we also host community education events throughout the season. And the purpose of those is really just to educate the community on the issues that we are really trying to improve upon. We do advocacy work, which also often looks like events for the community, and we try to stay on top of statewide policy that's impacting women and girls so that we can keep our trustees informed, and so that we, of course, internally can stay informed about what's happening. We also have 2 leadership development programs, which I'm very proud of. So we have a program for teens. It's a co-ed program for high school students, and that's called No Small Change. And then we have another program for young women professionals, and that is called Young Leaders Society. Both of those programs are focused on leadership development skills, looking at philanthropy as a leadership skill in particular. And so both of those programs meet every month, and we talk about different topics every month that we think are important. So things like fundraising, things like understanding social justice, and then they both have a giving circle component that takes place towards the end of the program. And we do that because we think it's really important that if you're trying to understand philanthropy as a leadership value, being actively engaged in philanthropy is the best way to learn how to do that. And so those programs have been running for 4 and 5 years. And then aside from that, all the wonderful things that we do, we also have a professionals network, which is chaired by our trustee and board member, Phyllis Schuster. And that started about a year ago. And the professionals network is open to any woman, really any woman anywhere in our community who is looking to do business development, grow their contacts, and also just meet other really amazing women. So that is kind of a broad view of what we do. And I'm happy to go deeper as we have this conversation.
Absolutely. No, and we will. Helene, I want to ask you, have you found a lot of new contacts and value in the networking events and such? Like, I know I myself, when I have attended the JWF events, I find them extremely educational, and I meet some phenomenal women. And I would love to hear from you about one of the reasons, like what ignited your passion with working with JWF when there's so many organizations to support and so many organizations to become a board member of and things like that. What are some of the facets beyond the grant making that really did attract you to the organization?
I think that with JWF, you have a greater opportunity to form a personal bond with the people we serve. All the other organizations that I've been involved with, you write your check, you take an interest, maybe you attend an event, a luncheon, and they introduce you to their clientele, and it's very nice. It's wonderful, and it's wonderful to be able to give money and meet. But with JWF, you're in, I hate to say you're in the weeds. You're rooting for the people that you're working with in the community. The advocacy and the education part of it allows you. One of the expressions that I hear so much is, "Oh, I don't know where my money goes when I give money to an organization." We hear it a lot. We don't hear it at JWF because you're encouraged to be a part of the many different programs that take place. If, the grant, yes, it's a big chunk, and for me, it's probably the most important, but I understand that those other components of JWF are a roadmap to grant making too. But you learn who our clients are, and you most importantly, you learn what the needs are in the community, and that's eye-opening. So if you
Absolutely.
like eye-opening things, this is the place.
Love it. And actually, so Jennifer, that comes to another question I have. Things have definitely changed overall over the last few months with everything that's been going on in the world overall. Have you seen a lot of changes in what the organizations need? And then how has JWF addressed that overall with the organizations that are some of the grantees and such that you work with?
Sure. It's a good question. So the organizations that we're currently funding are focused on gender-based violence and labor and employment issues. So those are definitely two areas that have been exacerbated with COVID-19 and social distancing. So of course we're seeing, increase in domestic violence and child abuse. And then of course, a lot of people, and within that, of course, women are out of work, or they're being furloughed, or they're getting reduced wages or things like that. So the grantees that we have definitely been impacted during COVID and in need of really emergency support. And then so in order to address that and to do what we can, we did run a COVID-19 Recovery Fund campaign. So that ran throughout the month of June. And I'm really appreciative to Helene and to other trustees and donors who supported that campaign. And so we were able to raise enough to give $26,000 away, which we directed to our 8 local grantees. And so with that funding, they were able to help with housing support, with food, basically with any kind of immediate need that they had where their clients were really being impacted by the situation.
That's incredible. It really is. I mean, congratulations. And again, I mean, amazing for anybody who's attending today that donated, and just for everybody who donated overall, because it's definitely needed and the impact is humongous. And congratulations on how much you all raised for that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. And our grantees were very, very appreciative that they were able to provide additional support to their clients.
Yeah, and a lot of the organizations haven't been doing that. So that's phenomenal of y'all. So I know that it's now been about a year that you've been CEO at JWF, a little over a year.
It's been, about a year and a half.
Very curious, when you first came on board and the plans that you had, like when you first became CEO, how have you seen those play out over the last year with everything that's been going so crazy and such? Again, I'm sure there's been some shift in that as well. But I also know, as doing PR and some of the social media for JWF, I've been able to see a lot of the milestones over the last year, and I'd really want to remark on some of those. So can you talk about some of those incredible milestones you guys have hit this year?
Yeah, sure. And I would also love to hear what you thought since you've been handling all of our social media. So I think that it's really important that a good leader be flexible. So I try to have goals, but I also think it's really important that we are able to respond to whatever is happening in real time, like with, COVID-19 and things like that. So one of my goals really when I became CEO was, to always have transparency with what we do and financial transparency with our board. We really worked hard with board governance over the last year, and we just have a bunch of new board members who came on. So Helene, of course, is one of them. She just joined our board back in May. And we have just the most amazing women involved with the organization and certainly on our board. So increased transparency. We are in the middle of strategic planning right now. And that was definitely one of the goals that I had set out for. We've existed for 18 years as an organization and almost 6 as an independent nonprofit when we separated from Federation, like Helene mentioned before. And so we're really at a good time, I think, to be looking at ourselves and where do we want to go? And what do we want to achieve for women and girls? And what is the best way for us to do that? So I'm really proud that we actually, did those things and that we are in strategic planning, and that when we come out of this, we'll really have a clear direction that we can share with everyone on where we're going.
Absolutely. And I think, again, where you've come from this year has been phenomenal, just to watch from the outside, well, inside, outside perspective of things. But again, we've been able to see such a growth in visibility for JWF overall, and getting some new people in to come out to some of the luncheons and events and things like that. So that's been exciting. I know we've seen some great money raised and fundraising going on this year. So that's been phenomenal. Personally, I thought it was great to see what's come out of the professional networks, like all the different events and the women who have connected and the relationships that have been made there. I think that's been really strong to see.
Yeah, no, thank you. I totally agree with that. And I have to really credit Phyllis Schuster with coming through with the idea and wanting to get that started, because I do think that there is a need for women to be networking with other women in the community. And we've been meeting almost once a month since we started the group, and just attracting new women to our work, really diverse, groups of women, which is amazing. So yeah, we're really proud of what we've accomplished over the last year.
You should be. And you have an event coming up next month, a virtual happy hour. So that's...
Yes, the Professionals Network is doing a virtual happy hour on the 29th of July. And so
no drinking and driving there.
That's right. You can just have your own glass of wine or whatever you like from the comfort of your home. But you'll be able to network with other women, and we, Zoom does have this wonderful breakout feature. So even if there are a lot of women who are participating, we'll still be able to have small groups so that people can meet each other and learn more about each other in a more intimate way.
Awesome.
So yes.
I definitely look forward to that. That'll be a fun event. So now let's talk about Helene's favorite. Let's talk about the grant making process a bit.
Right.
So first of all, if an organization is looking for a grant and they want to work with JWF, where do they start? Like, what are some of your parameters for your grant making process, and what do you look for in an organization that you're going to end up funding?
Sure.
Let Jennifer handle that part of it. Yeah.
Well, yes, and then Helene, of course, jump in. So, so one thing I want to address too, which Helene mentioned, we have an inclusive grant making process. So what that means is, for women who are really interested in investing in JWF and who want to participate in our committees, including our grants committee, you can become what we call a trustee, which I know in other organizations often means something else. But at JWF, a trustee is basically like a member, let's say. And so there is a certain financial commitment that goes along with being a trustee, which is $6,000, which is paid over 3 years. But being a trustee allows you to sit on any of the committees that we have, and we have several, which really help shape the direction of JWF, and that includes the grants committee. And so if you're on the grants committee, you have the opportunity to read all the proposals that we receive, interview the organizations and ask them questions, and then ultimately decide what projects we're funding. And I think that for a lot of women, that's very appealing. It's a very meaningful process, and it's such a good way to understand what's happening in the community. And like Helene said, really learn what the needs are. And so for organizations who are interested in getting on our radar for grant making, we do try to keep our website really up to date, which is jwfpalmbeach.org, which I always recommend people checking out our website first. And so once they go there, then they can reach out through email or by calling our office and talk to us about our grant making process. So like I mentioned before, we've been focusing on gender-based violence and labor and employment issues. Mm-hmm. And so we do tend to change our impact areas every couple of grant cycles. So once we finish strategic planning, we may have a different perspective on that. So, certainly next spring, we'll know what we'll be doing moving forward. But basically, one thing that sets us apart from other organizations, and I'm sure Helene can talk to this also, is that we do not generally fund direct service projects, right? So when we say direct service, we're talking about organizations that are meeting immediate needs, whether it's food or shelter, things like that. which are really important. But because we're looking at long-term impact for women and girls, we are focused on social change projects. So we fund, policy work, any kind of advocacy work, educational programs, things like that.
Okay.
Any project that will change the human condition at a level above where you're actually feeding.
Right. And of course, everything we do is done through a gender lens.
Right. And can you explain for people who, and I'm sure a lot of the attendees who are on the call today know what that means, but for people who may not, what does that mean, looking at it through a gender lens?
Yes, it's a good question. And so using a gender lens, which is something that I do in every aspect of my life now, basically just means looking at institutions or structures or issues and seeing how they impact women differently from men. And so that is definitely something that we try to do with all of our work, both in grant making and beyond that.
It also involves men, gender is both females and males. I mean, there's so many issues regarding men and their relationships, young men, especially in relationship with women, that we want to be able to change how men look at women in certain arenas, especially
Yes.
younger.
Yes, absolutely. And so we do try to include men often in the solutions, which will make things better for them as well as better for women.
Absolutely. And who are some of the current organizations that you're working with as grantees at this time? Like Helene, who are some that you feel like you have found the most passion in, or that you really feel strongly about organizations you work with, grantees for JWF? What are some of those that you?
Well, ones that I've felt strongly about, they're both local and Israel. When I first joined, human trafficking was huge. I mean, my eyes were opened so widely to human trafficking, both here and in Israel. I had no idea that prostitution was legal in Israel. And that was, I mean, if you think about it, and anyway, so that we have a wonderful new grantee that works to help trans women in the workplace.
Yes.
And I had no idea there was so much, Compass, yes. I had no idea there was so much discrimination. I mean, we know there's sexual discrimination, but this is a particular kind, and people, anyway, it was amazing. They do amazing work. Another one that I particularly like is, I never remember the names of the group, so Jennifer, help me. The coaches that help the boys,
Coaching boys to men. Coaching boys into men, yes.
Yes, and I think that's particularly interesting, because in that one we are helping the male, in that sense, but a lot of these boys come from homes that are, there's a component of violence in them, and they don't know how. This is what they've seen, and we learn and we take in what we see growing up. So the two men that are running this organization, they are, putting seminars together and working directly with these boys to show them a different way.
Yep. They had a phenomenal Impact Tuesday webinar last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, yes, with JWF. And so that's on YouTube as well for anybody who wants to take a look at that, and on the JWF website, because again, a lot of the organizations that you're mentioning, Compass and the Legal Center for Human Trafficking, they've all had Impact Tuesday webinars. And so take a look through all those also, because I myself, as I watch them, even though I've read about these organizations and you read about what they do online, but hearing them talk about it is incredible, and you really start to feel the impact. So again, I think these Impact Tuesday webinars are another thing that you've added over the last year that has been incredible. I think these are great to really get a firsthand look at what the organizations that you fund are doing.
Can I also say that it helps us, even on the grants committee, because we get a better in-depth look. The truth is, when we read, the 5 or 6 page grants, we watch a video, but we don't know the people. through the webinar, we've been able to know these people. And I also wanted to mention one more organization, actually an Israeli one. It was from several years ago, and what was very interesting, it was teaching the women in the mikveh who guard the mikveh
I didn't
to
send
be on the lookout for for women. It's a very insular community, but all women in Israel, when they get married, they must go to the mikveh. And it was an opportunity to see how women were being treated. Some of them were victims of violence in their own home, or they had illnesses that they didn't know about. And so we had a grant to train these women who guard the mikveh to recognize issues. And I thought that was wonderful.
I
So
agree. I think
those are my favorites. I love them all, but
of course, right? I mean, you do. But I think it's nice to just give some examples of some of the impact that the fundraising really does have, and that everybody's donations, what that truly goes to. Now, Jennifer, I know you're also part of the Women's Funding Alliance and a co-chair for the steering committee. Can you talk a bit about that and what that is? I love collaboration overall.
Yes. Yes, I mean, so I think that this is probably some of the information that is lesser known, unfortunately, about what we do, but we are part of a few different networks, including the Florida Women's Funding Alliance. And JWF is a founding member of that. And so, yes, I am currently co-chairing FWFA. And so we've been working the last couple of years. So it's a collective of different women's funds from across the state of Florida. And the idea is that we can leverage our voices collectively to be more impactful than any one of our individual funds can do on our own. And so we spent the last couple of years focusing on research. And so we did help to fund and to support the status of women in Florida county by county report. And so there were a series of different focuses within that report. So we could just learn, like, what are the needs of women and girls in Florida? And, like, you know, what are the facts on the ground, basically. And so the report looked at things like employment, poverty, things like that, just so that we can have a real sense of, you know, how are women doing in Florida? And then we recently had a girls report that was released, I want to say last year. And then we have, there should be another volume of that coming out this year. And so we're very proud of the work that we've been doing with FWFA. And I think that moving forward, we will be also focusing on some advocacy work together.
Okay.
And so trying to look at different advocacy campaigns within the state of Florida. Again, because, you know, there are many, many organizations that are part of this. And together we can have a much bigger impact, especially if we're tackling things statewide.
And
so,
how are women doing in Florida?
Not great. Not so great. And I'm, you know, happy to share the reports with everyone if they're interested, and we actually will be adding them to our website. So basically, women in Florida are not doing well at all. I think our overall grade is I think it's a D+. And that's kind of across the board. And the Institute for Women's Policy Research are the ones that we had hired to do this report for us. And so they did a really thorough job. So the only area that we saw that Florida was thriving compared to other states in the US was with women-owned businesses.
Okay.
So in that area, we actually have grown over the past few years, which is great.
Yeah.
We like to see that. But in other areas, in terms of education, violence, poverty, health, we tend to rank pretty low among all the other states in the United States. So we have a lot of work to do.
And that shows the necessity for everything that you all are doing, which is phenomenal. So yes, your impact is great.
We certainly try.
So one of the things that, you know, we kind of promised everybody today is we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive, things that they might not already know about JWF. So as we're hitting about the half an hour mark, I want to get into some of that. So Helene, let's start with you.
oh, great.
What is something that somebody who's coming in, because again, from the outside perspective, we can see the statistics and we see the impact that JWF has. We can see, again, we can attend events and all of that, but what's something that you've learned about the organization in your time as a trustee, and as I know you just became a board member, but overall, what's something that you've learned about the organization that a lot of people may not know?
That it doesn't, as I think I started it when I first started, it doesn't function like another organization. It functions like a society of smart, committed women who are engaged in wanting a better outcome for women. And you take an active role in that. And I don't know how better to say it. And that's what I learned from it. And as I said, I'm involved in a couple of other organizations, and I don't get that same sense. Not to put any of those down. It's just that when you are with Jewish Women Foundation women, it's a very special group.
I
would agree. I agree. Yeah. And I'm sure, Jennifer, you agree too. Yes, absolutely.
I do. We have really wonderful trustees and supporters. And I think something else that we hadn't mentioned yet, which I think does set us apart from some other organizations. So we are the Jewish Women's Foundation, but our work is not limited to just the Jewish community. So we really are focused on trying to improve the lives of all women and girls, regardless of race, regardless of religion. We just want to see all women and girls being, safe and successful in life. And so many of the projects that we fund are outside the Jewish community. Actually, probably most of them are outside of the Jewish community. So,
but as I said the other day, tikkun olam doesn't mean repair the Jewish world. It means repair the world.
Right.
I love that. Yeah.
Just saying.
No, absolutely though. Yes, I think that's great. And I think, I do think it's nice to know, especially nowadays, I mean, there's so much that's impacting women overall, that there is an organization where people who are passionate about feminist advocacy can come together and talk about these issues and really delve deep into that and make an impact in that, not just, post a quote on Facebook or something, but actually get involved. And I think that's something that a lot of people are not necessarily aware of, is that, again, through a gender lens, that's how you're looking at everything. And that's one of the things we focus on a lot on your public relations, social media side of things, is really letting people know how specific it is to helping women and girls overall. But with men as allies and such, I've seen a lot of men who do attend your events, to the luncheons and things like that. So I think that's fantastic as well. So for anybody who may be watching, if you're male still, you can be a part of JWF also.
Yes.
I think that's great to mention. And I do think I actually want to talk a bit more about No Small Change, if we can jump back to that as well, because I think No Small Change is really important in getting the younger generation involved. So can you maybe talk a bit more about that program and, how that works, how teens are getting involved and their giving circle and things like that?
Sure. And I'm happy to talk about YLS too.
Yep. We're going to get to that also. Yep.
But yeah, so No Small Change I think that we finished our 4th cohort this year. And so that program came about because we really felt like it was important, again, to have long-term change. We think that, starting with younger generations is probably going to be most effective. And so we started No Small Change about 4 years ago. And we decided to make it a co-ed program because we felt that, again, if you're trying to improve issues around gender, you have to include boys. And so every year we take up to 20 high school students. Most of the time they're from Palm Beach County, but we actually did have a team from Broward this past year participate. And the teens have to go through an application process because we are looking for teens who can commit to, to the follow through and responsibility and everything that comes along with the program. Again, because there are a limited number of seats. And so they apply, we, interview them, read through their applications. And usually the program starts in August. I think for this coming year, we'll be pushing it back to January because of the situation with COVID-19. But generally we start in August, and we have a weekend retreat at a hotel, which is really fun. You get together about 20 high school students together in a hotel. It really is fun. And we do it that way because there's a lot of really, kind of heavy topics that we cover with the teams that they're probably, not really exposed to. So things like, what is a gender lens? And, how do you apply a gender lens? And, Jewish values around giving, and what is philanthropy, and things like that. So we get together for a weekend for like really intensive sessions. They're pretty much all day long, but they're really meaningful, and I think the teams really enjoy getting to know each other that way, and having this weekend together. And then after that, we meet once a month on a Sunday afternoon, and we bring in outside facilitators to talk about fundraising and why that's an important skill, and just a variety of topics. And so the past few years, we've had wonderful donors who supported this program. In particular, the Auerbach Family Foundation has really supported No Small Change. And so the teams are required as part of the program to go out and to fundraise. And so we ask that they try to raise at least $250. And we have been matching, really, we've been giving them 10,000 seed money every year. So we have the $10,000, the teams are out there raising money, they pool all of this money together, and we teach them, what a giving circle is and how to be a strategic philanthropist. So the teams will decide on the topic. Let's say, the topic is health. So as long as it's done through a gender lens, the teams can choose whatever they want. Every year, the group comes up with a different topic, and they go out and they research organizations in the community. This past year, they funded 2 organizations in Israel. So it's really up to the teams what they want to do. But we really try to empower them and let them be the decision makers with this money. And so they do the same thing our grants committee does, where they do the interviews, they ask questions, and then they decide, this is what we want our money to go. So this past year, they gave out $14,000, which was split between 2 organizations. Both of them happen to be based in Israel. And it's just such a amazing thing to watch, how the teams are learning and how moved they are by the interviews, and the appreciation that they have for the power of philanthropy by going through the program.
Absolutely. And it's incredible. I mean, again, if you don't start young and really understand what all of, what the importance of giving back really means and how that feels and all of that, I think it's harder to get involved as you get older and older, and, life takes over. And so now let's talk about Young Leaders Society, because that, as you get older and life starts to take over and such, developing those leadership roles is extremely important as well, specifically for women. So tell us a bit about the Young Leaders Society and, what that group does as well.
Sure. So women's leadership is, a really important area for JWF. And so we also created this group to try to educate and empower the next generation of leaders. And so kind of similar, there's an application process for that as well. And so we usually have between 10 and 20 women who can be accepted into the program every year. It's a 12-month program, so it's a little bit longer than the teen program. And the purpose of this program is to provide practical leadership skills and also sort of practical life skills to the women who are in the group, to create a sense of camaraderie, to hear what their own goals are, and to help them achieve whatever kind of leadership goals they set for themselves. And of course, it also includes a giving circle component where each person contributes $250, and they go through the same interviewing process and grant making process. And this program's been really successful, I think, for a variety of reasons, but it's not terribly expensive to be part of the program, which I think is really important, because the women in the group are, in their early 20s sometimes, usually up until about 40. So it can be a wide range. It's really diverse. They come from different backgrounds and different professions. But some of the things that we think are really important that we teach in this program are things like financial literacy, which we also teach the teens, because we know that a lot of people are not learning financial literacy or management in school, or maybe they're not learning it through their parents. But you can't be philanthropic if you can't even manage your finances. And for women in particular, we're really sensitive to them being able to be in control economically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so they meet every month, and then they have a giving circle, and it's just a wonderful program, and I really love working with them.
Yeah, I think that's such a great program. And you're right. I mean, most of us are not taught, when you're in school or anything, how to manage your finances, which is such an important life skill. So to be able to provide that is huge. I think that just that component alone is making a very big impact on people's lives overall in the future. So
yeah,
I think that's great.
It's one of the favorite sessions that they have every year.
Yeah.
Is the financial management session, talking about debt and talking about like saving for retirement and investments and things like that. So.
And the fact that you can say that's anybody's favorite topic to talk about is great. So you all are doing something right and getting people engaged in the right way on that, which is good.
Right. Well, I think it reflects the need.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
understanding budgets actually is an important component of the grants committee, and that is probably our most challenging part, to understand how money is getting spent by our grantees. And that is a challenge.
Sure. I think
it's a great skill. It's a great skill.
Reading a budget, creating a budget. I mean, we see all of these areas around money. Right. Exactly.
Absolutely. Now, I mentioned in the chat that somebody wanted us to mention again where you can find some of the previous webinars, as well as where you'll be able to find today's webinar. So if you want to rewatch this or any of the Impact Tuesday webinars, you can find them on the JWF website, jwfpalmbeach.org, and that is under Impact Tuesdays under the Events tab. So click on Events, you'll see Impact Tuesdays, and every one of those videos will be listed there. And we've got about 20 more minutes left, so if any of our attendees have questions, feel free to put those in Q&A or in the chat, and we can ask Jennifer and Helene those questions as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely, so happy to ask any of those. But in the meantime, I want to ask as well, so we've talked a lot about what you've been doing. I want to know what's upcoming as well. What are some things, I know you're going to continue to do Impact Tuesday webinars.
Correct.
But tell us about some of the things that are upcoming as well with JWF.
Yeah, that's a good question. With everything that's going on,
yep.
So there's so much uncertainty. I mean, so we certainly hope that, of course, all of this will go back to whatever normal means. But just things be safer and healthier for us to get together in person, so that we can start having our educational events, in the fall.
In your new building. We should have mentioned that.
Yes, we have moved into new office space, and so
very nice office space.
Yes, Helene has been one of our two visitors so far. So yes, we are happy to have new office space. So we of course would love to do a open house as soon as we're able to. Maybe in the fall if we get lucky. I don't know. We would love to be able to invite people to come and check out our new office space. So that would be really exciting. And yeah, I mean, as soon as we're able to be in person again, we want to resume our educational events. We are planning on having an advocacy webinar in August, I believe. So we're partnering with the Women's Foundation of Florida to do a panel discussion with some elected officials around issues around race and equity, because we think that's really important, and kind of how that impacts women, differently than it impacts men. Professionals Network, I think we'll keep doing our events either in person or virtually if we have to, because we don't want to stop just because we can't be together. And I think it's really important that we're able to engage with the community and with the the women who want to be engaged with us.
I think the strategic planning thing is also a very big component of the summer, with the committee working to just crystallize where we want to go, and just in a mindful manner, and be flexible about the future. And
sure, 1,000%. And we'll definitely, when that process is over, we will definitely be able to move forward, I think in maybe a slightly different way than how we've been doing things. Because it really is important for us to be impactful and to know that what our donors are investing with their philanthropic dollars is making a difference for women and girls. So definitely that. We normally have our annual fundraising luncheon in December at the Kravis Center, but we have made the decision to push it back to March because we don't want to have a virtual event if we don't absolutely have to, because it's just such a special event. And so we're looking at March for that. We'll be sending out information over the next couple of months with details about that, but we are honoring Vivian Lieberman this year with the Eileen Berman Leadership Award. And we'll also be honoring Sarah Cohen with the Rising Star Leadership Award. So very exciting. So we're really looking forward to that, and just, looking forward to seeing everyone in person as soon as we're able to do that.
Yeah.
But we will keep having Impact Tuesdays webinars. I think even when we can start being together again, just because it makes it so much more accessible. And I think that people really like to know what's going on and hearing about other organizations in the community who are helping women and girls. So
I agree. I think, again, these have been great. As Helene mentioned, you really get a chance to know the people behind the organizations and the grantees. Now, I do want to mention as well that since there aren't in-person events, and because the main, your main event is being pushed into March for this year, things like sustaining donors and donations have become even more important than ever this year.
yes.
And so can you explain to people what a sustaining donor is and how they can go online and find all that information?
Yes, thank you. I mean, so JWF is supported 100% by individual donors. We don't really receive grants from other foundations or organizations because we don't really provide direct services. And so we really rely very heavily on donors to help us do the great work that we do. And we're so grateful for everyone who supports our work. And so a monthly sustaining donor is basically a donor who gives us their credit card information, and every month, whatever amount that they choose, we automatically, deduct the donation on a monthly basis. It could be $18, it could be $100, whatever the amount is. It really helps to support the organization and to know that we have, some kind of ongoing cash flow, basically, that we can rely on. So yes.
No, and I think that's great for a lot of people. Like a lot of people feel like if they want to donate, they feel that they have to make a large sum donation. So I think something like a monthly donor is incredible. You can choose a smaller amount and help to sustain. So I think that's great, and something, again, a lot of people don't know is an option. So
Sure.
You can find that option on jwfpalmbeach.org under the donate tab.
Yes. That is correct.
Yes.
All donations are greatly appreciated. I know that a lot of people think that in order to be a philanthropist, that means you have to have, millions of dollars that you're able to give away. But, I don't think that that's the case at all. We don't teach that to our teens or to our YLS members. So, being able to give whatever you can give is really impactful.
Absolutely. And so now, Jennifer, I asked Helene, but I will ask you as we're wrapping up in the last 10 minutes. With everything that people do know about JWF, what is something that they may not know? Something that just maybe you found out becoming part of the organization that you didn't know about before?
Helene, do you want to answer that first? You want me to?
How do I want to answer that first? I don't really know. I'm not sure how to answer it, and I'm not wasting time here.
Okay. You want me to answer first?
Everybody, I think that all ideas are welcome, and when we get together in person, and even through these meetings, everybody's willing to listen. There's a lot of respect. I respect the respect that we give each other. From the beginning, and just going back to the trustee model, which was different. I know it is a larger amount of money to, the $2,000 a year. But what I appreciated from us getting together with that is that everybody came to the table and comes to the table as an equal. And it's hard to describe what that is, but there are so many places where, everybody's very aware of who gave what, and, here you're respected for your ideas, and there isn't a conversation about who gave what. And I find that personally important.
I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
And
I
I'll
just want to
say,
mention,
oh,
so
go ahead.
if you're 40 or younger, the trustee commitment is half of that, so it's $1,000 a year. So I just did want to mention that.
And that's an important thing that I like a lot of people may not have known. I actually had no idea about that until, again, starting to work with you all. And then it was
Right.
like, oh, that's a great thing to note. So what else might we not know?
So right now we are a staff of 3, and I think that often, which is a good thing, we look like, you know, we're a much bigger organization, but we're not. There are only 3 of us. So there is myself, and then Jackie Shapiro Iglesias, who is our office administrator, and Andrea Pressberg, who is our development and program associate. So, you know, we're small but mighty, which I like to say. We all, you know, do what needs to get done. And I think that we're a really strong team. And I have to say that both Jackie and Andrea are really amazing at what they do, and that I certainly could not do all of this by myself. So I'm really grateful for our staff. So I would say, besides, you know, our size, we're also part of some other networks. You know, I spend a lot of my time talking to other people in the field and trying to stay on top of, you know, what are the issues that are impacting women and girls the most, by doing a lot of research and things like that. I mean, there's a lot that goes into really being aware on, you know, kind of what's happening for women and girls, and sort of like what the best solutions are, and you know, who is investing in that work and what needs to be done. So we do spend a lot of time internally doing research and really trying to stay on top of everything that's going on, so that we can always be doing the best, you know, possible work that we can. And so into that, we are also part of the Jewish Women's Funding Network. And so that is actually a national network comprised of different Jewish women's funds from across the United States. And then we also have a representative from Israel who participates in that with us. And so that really helps us to stay connected to our colleagues, to see what they're working on, what organizations that they've been funding that maybe we want, you know, to learn more about. And we also have an annual conference, which I think is really amazing. So the conference was supposed to be in Florida this past spring, but of course with COVID, we had to postpone it. So we will be meeting in Fort Lauderdale next May, which is very exciting. We're happy to be hosting the conference this year because it is hosted in different parts of the country, usually on the East Coast. And the Force for Change conference is a great way for trustees and supporters from all over, from different funds, to get together and to learn from one another. And it's just such a remarkable experience. And I don't think that everyone is aware that we're part of this network, or that this conference takes place every year. So I certainly would encourage anyone who's interested to attend that. And we do send out information once we have the details. And in addition to that, you know, there are 3 other funds in Florida, in South Florida, who are also working on women's issues in a similar way that we are. And so we have done some collaborative grant making with the 3 other funds to support local projects. And so we also do periodically have a symposium. We had one, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, where just the 4 funds from South Florida got together to talk about the project that we had funded, and to learn from each other and to hear about what's happening in South Florida. So, you know, so in addition to all the other things that we are doing on our own, we really do try to partner with a lot of other organizations in the community on a statewide level, and even, you know, nationally, when we can do things like that. Because again, it's really important for me, and I think for our board and our trustees, that we are experts in this area, and we try very hard to be informed when we make our decisions. With our grant making, with education, we really are looking at what is most effective for women and girls, what's the best way for us to be doing our work, and, you know, how can we be aligned with best practices. So we really do care a lot about the integrity of the work that we're doing.
And something that people may not know that I know, as somebody who I've known Jennifer for about 30 plus years now. And something that I know about Jennifer is she truly lives all of this as well. So it's not just for her career, and it's not just when she's at work. It is literally an everyday, every moment thing that she is passionate about this, and that she talks about it, and she's researching and she's learning. So that's something I think is important to note as well, because it truly is a lifestyle as well. I mean, everything about it.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I'm sure my children really appreciate that I do a lot of feminist parenting and try to talk to them about these issues as well, because it's important to me that, you know, within my own household, right, like these are values that I do sincerely try to live every day of my life, because it's really important to me. Like, this isn't just a job. This is something I love. I mean, I've been here almost 6 years, and I wouldn't, you know, have stayed this long if it wasn't something that was very meaningful to me. So, and I love the trustees and our donors so much. Like Helene said, they're just such a smart, committed, passionate group of women. They really do care about making a difference. It's not about like who is making the largest donation, although we of course appreciate large donations because we need that to survive, but we really do care about we care about everyone's ideas, and we do try to have an inclusive process, you know, with our advocacy and education committee that helps us set, you know, the events that we do for the year. We really do want the feedback of women that we're working with. And we want to take feedback from the community and from the grantees to hear, you know, what they need the most, so that we can always be poised to respond in the most effective way possible.
So that being said, in the last few minutes that we have, for people who do want to get in contact or who want to reach out to JWF, what's the best way for them to do that?
So of course our website, which we've mentioned, jwfpalmbeach.org. Or you can call our office at 561-275-2200. And all of our emails are on the website, but you can also email me at jennifer@jwfpalmbeach.org. I would love to hear from everyone with their comments, their ideas. If they want to get involved, please, you know, reach out to me. We would love that.
Awesome. And we have about 5 more minutes left. If anybody has any questions at all, again, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A. But overall, this has been a pleasure to talk to you both today. And before we hang up or close out this webinar, I wanted to see if there was anything else that maybe we didn't touch on today that you feel is really important for people to know.
You don't have to be a donor to be involved with JWF. Our community education and advocacy programs are open to anyone that wants to be involved. Jewish, not Jewish, doesn't make a difference. You don't have to be a trustee to be involved in any of our educational programs. So, you know, certainly with webinars or when we have events in person again, certainly come out if you're interested. We want as many people as possible to learn about the work that we're doing and to learn about these issues and to share that with other people, because, you know, we can't make social change on our own. So the more people who are involved with what we're doing and who are knowledgeable and are advocating for women and girls, the better it is for everyone.
And if you could leave everybody with, let's say, one small actionable thing that they can do in their business and their lives and anything to make some social change for women and girls today, what can they do? What is something you can recommend?
That's a good question. I would say just try to pay attention to how women and girls are being treated in your environment and advocate for them. I think that's one of the best things we can do, is just to advocate for ourselves and to advocate for one another. So if you're, you know, a senior level person in your company or organization, mentor younger women, you know, look out for them, advocate for policies that will put women in the best position possible. So
absolutely. I love it. I love it. And Helene, is there anything you can recommend? I mean, like, donate to JWF. That's a good.
Well, I do want to, because we didn't mention it, I just want to thank the people that are the 2 women that are serving as our grant chairs for last couple of years. It's really a yeoman's task. You're reading and you're learning about the organization and you're weeding out. It takes a lot of time and effort, and I really want to thank the chairs especially, and of course the women who dedicate themselves to coming to the meetings and giving blocks of time to examine the ins and outs of organizations. It's done in an extremely professional manner, and I'm very proud of that. It's been a work in progress, honestly, and I think that we're forever mindful and anxious to do a professional job. And so I thank everyone involved.
Absolutely. And you all do. I mean, I will tell you, as somebody who came to my first event not knowing anybody there, and not, well, aside from Jennifer, and not knowing much about the organization overall, everybody was warm and welcoming and open to having somebody new there and in the group and just getting me involved. And the more I've learned about the organization, the more impressed I always am. The work that you all do is extremely impactful, and it's incredible. And you really are making a big change in the world for women and girls overall. And so thank you for all that you guys do, or you ladies do, I should say. And thank you again for taking some time today to talk to me and to allowing me to host, because this has been phenomenal to talk to you both. And
yes, I really appreciate it. And yes, certainly if anybody wants to donate,
yes,
that is a great way to support what we're doing and to support women and girls. Which again, you can do through our website at jwfpalmbeach.org, or by reaching out to me or to someone else on staff. So thank you for joining us. Emily, thank you so much for being our hostess for today's webinar.
It's a pleasure. Thank you again for having me. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Helene.
And we'll
Thank
see
you for being a wonderful CEO. We all love and respect it. We really, amazing. You do an amazing job.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody have a wonderful day. See you on the next Tuesday.
Yep, stay safe. Bye.
Bye.